Yeah. This is basically like pre-calc, right?
Yeah, or even Algebra 2.
Yeah.
It's basically projectile motion.
hmm
And projectile motion is in the form of a parabola.
Right,
And
right.
the equations of projectile motion
hmm
are pretty standard because all motion is affected by gravity.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's look at 5A. Let me take
Sure.
a picture of it here.
Okay.
Let me write with this color ink.
It's cool because we went to Metro's like campus today, and we got to see like where they do like the simulators and everything like that for pilots. And
Oh,
man, it
really?
is so
You have a
cool.
good pilot training program there?
Yep, it's one of the best in the country.
Huh?
It's super cool.
Sure, your
Like
your
they got
dad your
every.
dad would know. So,
Yeah, he went there. Yeah, my
oh,
dad.
he did, huh?
He did. That's where he got his pilot's license, is from
Oh,
Metro.
okay.
And yeah, he said it's a really good program and that I'd really like it. So that's where I want to go. So that'd be cool.
When you're dealing with projectile motion,
hmm
you can even add another variable here. What would I call it? C.
Okay.
Okay.
hmm
And this equation applies. C is the starting height, incidentally.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So in this one, C is going to be 0. Let's get rid of it
Okay.
because the starting height is 0.
Right.
V sub 0 is always the starting velocity in an upward motion.
Okay.
Okay.
hmm
So if you wanted to figure out the height of the ball, and I've made a slight mistake here, it's not a function of x,
hmm
it's a function of t.
Okay.
The height of the ball at any point in time is this function.
Okay.
And they've given us the initial velocity, so I can fill in v sub 0 as 25 meters per second.
hmm
And now there is the equation of the height of the soccer ball at any point in time.
Okay.
You can see that before time starts, when t is 0, the height of the soccer ball is going to be 0.
hmm Yeah.
At the end of 1 second, the height of the soccer ball will be 9 feet high. In other words, if
hmm
I plug in 1 for t.
hmm
So how long was the ball in the air?
Okay.
What's the height of the ball when it comes
Well,
back
so
down?
when it or like at the very top.
No, not yet.
All right.
We'll get to the top.
Okay.
First of all, they want to know how long was the ball in the air.
hmm
Well,
We don't. Yeah.
we can figure that out though, because we know
Okay.
what the height is when it lands.
0.
Yeah. So it's all I
hmm
got to do is substitute 0 for height
Okay.
and solve this equation.
Okay.
And that will give me a time
Uh-huh.
that the height is 0. Now we already know one solution is 0. In
hmm
other words, the soccer ball started out at height 0.
Right.
But if I, how do I solve this?
Um, well, we could, can we subtract 25t from both sides?
No, you don't want to do that.
Divide then.
No.
Not that either.
Well, divide is actually correct. You want to factor
Okay.
out a t.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
So if we factor out a t,
Hmm.
what's left?
So it'd be 0 is equal to t. Um,
You said it because
minus
you
4
divide each term by t.
minus 4t plus.
No, we didn't take
I
out a
can't do
4. It's still
that.
minus 16t,
Yeah.
right? In other words, these
Uh-huh.
two terms have to multiply to give you that term.
Hmm.
When you're factoring, always do the check immediately.
Okay.
Plus 25.
Plus 25. Yeah.
Okay. In other words, now at this point in time, the very next step that you want to always do here is to check, make sure you haven't made a mistake,
Hmm.
because it's easy at this point.
Right.
If I multiply that times that, I get minus 16t squared. I multiply
Hmm.
t times 25, I get plus 25t.
Hmm.
Now we have the classic algebra problem where we have two things multiplied together equals 0. What
Okay.
is the way to solve this at this point?
Um, equal to 0.
If
So
I have two things, if I have a times b equals 0, what does it tell
square
me about
root
a
of.
and b?
Can you repeat that?
If
If
I
it's.
have a times b
Hmm.
equals 0, what do I know about a and b?
They have to both go into 0.
They have to both
Um,
be 0.
but yeah.
One of them has to be 0.
Hmm.
So if I have a times b equals 0, that cannot happen if a and b are both numbers.
Hmm.
So the way we solve it is we set a equal to 0 and we set b equal to 0.
Okay.
So here, that's my a,
Hmm.
that's my b.
Yeah.
So set each one equal to 0 and solve for it.
Okay.
So one solution is t equals 0.
Yeah.
What's the other solution?
Uh, t squared is
No, there's
equal
no
to.
t
Or
squared
no.
anymore. We've got this, which is t, and we got this, which is minus 16t plus 25.
16 such. Then t is equal to 25.
You have to set
Right.
that
Because
equal to
16.
0.
Oh, like, okay, everything in the parentheses equal to 0.
Yeah. In other words,
So,
that's my b.
yeah.
My b is not a single thing. It's minus 16t plus 25. That is my b that I'm going to set equal to 0.
Okay.
When you do that and you solve, you get 25 over 16. And can't really break that down any.
No. Okay. Well,
So,
you could convert that into a decimal.
well, I don't mean
Um,
that. You don't want to.
oh,
You want to
no.
leave it as a fraction if it's a fraction. When I say I can't break it down, it means I can't simplify it. I can't divide top and bottom by any number.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
But no, you don't want to turn it into a decimal. Just kind of
Okay.
remember that.
Okay.
Decimals are not helpful in math. Ratios are. To have
Hmm.
a ratio 25/16 is good. To have a
Yeah.
decimal doesn't help me at all. Okay, but
Okay.
here's what we
Yeah.
got. We got two solutions. We got
Hmm.
t equals 0, and that makes sense because that's the height before it takes off,
That does make sense.
before
Yeah.
the ball is kicked.
Hmm.
It's got a height of 0. And what
Hmm.
this is telling us is that at 25/16 of a second, the ball is
Hmm.
at 0 height again,
Yeah.
which means it went up and came down.
Hmm.
Okay?
Okay.
So, in other words, the ball followed this kind of a path,
Hmm.
basically. He kicked it, it went up, hit its
Hmm.
height, came back down.
Okay.
And it's called projectile motion, but it's always in the form of a parabola. It always
Right.
follows a parabolic path.
Okay.
So the question is how high did the ball go?
Mhm.
Well, we know
We
about
could plug the.
parabolas in that we can figure out where this vertex is.
Hmm.
If we know the parabola, let me erase some of this stuff so that I have room
Yeah.
to write.
Yeah. Definitely.
25/16 is the key number. That's number of seconds it takes for the ball to come back down.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if I know we have a parabola like I've drawn over here,
Hmm.
how do we figure out at where the vertex occurs? In other
Well.
words,
Yeah.
we don't really want to know what the t-coordinate of the vertex is. We
Hmm.
want to know what the height is
Hmm.
when the vertex occurs.
Yeah.
So the first thing we really do have to know is figure out what the x-coordinate is, or the t. And
Hmm.
I'm going to solve that, plug it into the formula, and that will tell me how high the ball went.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
And the formula for the x-coordinate of the vertex, which I like to write like this,
Uh-huh.
is minus b over 2a. So for this
Okay.
quadratic, what is it? What's b?
So B for this one would it just be 0?
No,
Because like we don't have like a B, do
we
we?
don't have a c, but we have an a and we have a
Oh,
b.
that is D. Yeah, I didn't see the T for some reason. Yeah, so it'd be 25 minus 25
Over.
over 2 times minus 16.
So that fraction
Hmm.
is where the vertex occurs. At what time? In other words, at 25/32 of a second,
Hmm.
the ball hits its peak. Well, what is
Okay.
its peak? The answer to that is what is the height when I plug in 25/32 into this equation?
Hmm.
Well,
Um,
that's minus 16
okay.
times 25/32 squared
Hmm.
plus 25 times 25/32. Notice I took away the negative signs. They canceled one another.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, you got your calculator?
I do.
Probably at this point, decimals are going to be more helpful than fractions,
Yeah.
especially when you have to square one of them.
Hmm.
So start out with 25/32.
Okay.
What is that number?
Hold on. Um, 0.78.
Multiply it by minus 16.
Okay. Negative 12 and a half. And then you do
And then plus
25 times
25 divided by 32. 625,
um
25 squared.
minus 11.71. Nah, that's sorry.
No, it
Hold on.
isn't right. You got to
No.
figure out what that fraction is and add it to that fraction, or to that decimal.
Yeah. Plus. Wait, so you do. I did that. Wait, plus 25. That doesn't sound right.
First of all, take 625 divided by 32,
Yeah.
and then subtract 12.5 from that answer.
That's there we go. Yeah, 7.03.
That's its height,
Mm-hmm.
meters, because the
Okay.
full equation is going to be in meters.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the velocity of the ball at the top?
0 meters per second.
Good.
Cool.
Should we go to number 6 or
Yeah, we'll
which
do
one?
number 6 next.
6 is good.
So
Do
6.
have a 5:30 today, so I need
Okay.
to watch the time.
Yeah, definitely. No worries.
Much flexibility, but
No
all right.
worries. Yeah.
Another same problem.
Okay. So we would still do h of x is equal to minus 16t plus
Well,
25t
it's,
squared.
first of all, it's h of t. The
Or h.
mistake I
Yeah.
made originally was writing it h of x.
Or
But
h of t.
it's
My bad.
always minus 16t squared. You know what? It isn't always minus 16. If it's in meters per second, it's 4.9.
Okay.
So we did the last problem wrong.
I could go back and fix that. Let's just do, we can do 6.
Okay.
Just replace
It's
that with.
important because
Yeah.
acceleration due to gravity is 32 feet per second per second.
Okay.
And this number is always half of that. But if you're talking meters per second, acceleration of gravity is 9.8 meters per second per second.
Right.
And so half of that number is 4.9. So if everything is in meters per second, then you want to use 4.9, not 16.
Okay.
So we'll do this problem correctly, hopefully. Only I'll use 4.9.
Okay. Yeah, I can go back and fix
You should
that.
have learned that in physics, actually, also. They should have taught you that. That when you're using meters, it's a different formula than if you're using feet.
He hasn't taught us that yet.
Now, the second part is always the initial velocity times time. Okay?
Okay.
And in this problem, they don't give you that. However, I think we can calculate it. Let me think for a second.
Sure.
The time to get to the top might get you. Now let's think for a second. This is a little bit trickier because they don't give us all the basic variables.
Right.
But they do tell us that it landed 6 seconds after it was kicked. So I know that h of 6 is 0. Well, that's helpful. That means that if I plug in 6 for time, in other words, I know that at the end of 6 seconds, the height is 0.
Right.
That's going to tell me that initial velocity.
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
And what it's going to be is, what's 4.9 times 36?
Yeah. 176.4.
Now, if I take that term on the other side of the equation and make it 6v sub 0. Hold on a minute.
No, you're good. You would divide them.
I'm making a mistake here. Oh, no, I'm not. In other words, if I move it on the other side, it becomes a negative.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to divide both sides by negative 6. So what's the initial velocity going to be?
20. I got 29 negative or
Actually positive.
29.4. Yeah, 29.4.
29.4. Now I know
Mm-hmm.
what my equation is
Mm-hmm.
because I just solved for v sub 0. So it's
Right.
minus 4.9 t squared
Mm-hmm.
plus 29.4 t. And if we were to plug in 6 for t, we would see that h of 6 is 0.
Mm-hmm.
So that still doesn't tell us how high the ball is. In other words, in order to solve for the height of the ball, I need where its vertex is. Well,
Okay.
the t-coordinate of the vertex is minus b over 2a, which for this problem is what?
So for this one, it would be minus 29.4 over 2 times minus 4.9.
Come up with that number.
Hold on. Okay, so let me put that in. 29.4 divided by negative 9.8.
Actually,
Negative 3.
it's going to be positive. They're
Yeah,
both
so
negative.
3. Mm-hmm.
So what is it?
3. Not even, just, yeah.
It's 3?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that is the t-coordinate of the vertex. In other words, we know that that thing is in the shape of a parabola. That's the point where it hits its height
Right.
at 3 seconds. Now the question is,
Okay.
what is its height? So how do I get
Yeah. Plug in 3 for t.
So h of 3 is minus 4.9 times 3 squared
Mm-hmm.
plus 29.4 times 3. That's going to be its height at the
Okay.
3-second point, which will be where it hits its maximum height.
Okay. Um, and then, hold on. 0.2 minus. Okay. I got 44.1.
Okay, 44.1 meters
Yep.
is the height.
Mm-hmm.
And how,
That's a lot of work for
why'd she say,
a.
careful, the time to the top may get you? Why'd she say that?
I'm not sure.
I'm missing something in this problem. Late that day, Mrs. Weber joins the fun and kicks a second soccer ball straight into the air. Mr. Bloom timed the ascent of the soccer ball and found that it landed 6 seconds after it was kicked, which would make sense that its vertex would occur at 3 seconds, halfway.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, I don't know why she put that little thingy in there, but
I don't either. I don't think
part
we missed
B,
anything.
how fast was the ball traveling when she kicked it?
Um, how fast was it?
What's the initial velocity?
So we got for the initial velocity, what was it? 29.4.
Exactly. It's whatever that coefficient of the t term is.
Yeah,
That's the initial velocity always.
cool.
What was the acceleration at the top of the arc? Hmm.
Um, would
Hmm.
it be 3? The 3 meters per second?
Why are they asking you this problem?
Yeah.
I know how to get the answer, but I don't know that you would necessarily know how to get it. Yes, you would. It's going to be minus 9.8 meters per second per second.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, when the ball gets to the very top, it
Oh, I
actually,
do
the
know that.
entire
Yeah.
path of the
I was
ball,
thinking.
it
I was
has
overthinking
a
that.
negative acceleration.
Mm-hmm.
And that negative acceleration is twice that number.
Okay.
In other words, twice that number is minus 9.8.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, how were you supposed to get it? I got it with calculus.
Yeah, we know that term or that number. Like we've been using that number for a lot of things we
Now
do.
hold
So
on. When you say what number, you mean twice this?
negative 9.8
Yeah.
and 9.8. Like we've
Right.
used
Whenever
that
you're dealing in meters per
because it's like.
second, it's always 9.8.
Mm-hmm.
But okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
anyway, that's what it is it's actually negative 9.8 is
Oh, okay.
acceleration.
Okay.
Okay. And Dylan, I gotta go. So
Okay. Sounds good.
talk to you next time.
I will. Sounds
Good
good.
one.
Thanks for scouting.
Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.